up the events of life.
Hello and welcome to Hollywood at Home from Arizona Public Media. I'm Victoria Lucas. Tonight's movie is the story of a man who's largely forgotten by history, but who Winston Churchill called the single most important contributor to victory over the Nazis in World War II. It's The Imitation Game from 2014, a thrilling, character-driven drama portraying real-life mathematician and computer pioneer Alan Turing, who led a team of British codebreakers in a nail-biting race against time to decipher top-secret coded messages the Nazis used to plan and execute their attacks. The team's adversary, known as Enigma, was a German encryption machine that employed multiple rotors and crossed circuits to scramble letters of the alphabet into code that changed each time the machine was used, meaning there were literally millions of combinations into which any given message could be encoded. Cracking the code would enable the Allies to learn German plans in advance, which could shorten the war and save uncounted numbers of lives. But could the team uncover and exploit the machine's secrets in time, or ever for that matter? Benedict Cumberbatch stars as team leader Alan Turing, with Keira Knightley co-starring as his fellow codebreaker and close friend. And they're joined by a top-notch supporting cast that includes Matthew Goode, Charles Dance, and Mark Strong. It's seldom easy to get a movie made, of course, but The Imitation Game took an especially convoluted path to production. Screenwriter Graham Moore was a self-confessed computer nerd who had been a lifelong fan of Alan Turing's work. As he said later, over the years, I go to my agents and say, hey, there's this amazing true story about a British mathematician who was a war hero for cracking German codes. And they'd be like, please don't ever write that script. That is unmakeable. But of course, Moore wrote it anyway. The screenplay drew a fair amount of interest in Hollywood, but few offers until Warner Brothers offered to pay a reported seven-figure sum because Leonardo DiCaprio wanted to play Turing. But then, as happens, DiCaprio decided to do a different film. So with other major studios saying they were interested but not interested, screenwriter Moore approached smaller independent companies until one, Black Bear Pictures, came on board. True, the budget may not have been as lavish as with the majors, but there was a bright side. As Moore said later, we got to make our movie the way we wanted. Now, with financing and production deal in place, the next order of business was to choose a director. Some big names were considered, but the producers wanted someone they could trust not to deliver a traditional Hollywood biopic. So they approached Norwegian director Morten Tyldum, whose offbeat thriller Headhunters combined action with dark humor, attracting a lot of attention in the film world. Tyldum had been educated at New York's School of the Visual Arts, and he spoke perfect English, but he had never directed an English-language feature film. And as he admitted, he never imagined his first movie in English would be a period piece with lots of dialogue. It meant I couldn't hide behind explosions and crazy action, he said, but I was looking for a story and a character, and this had both. There were so many layers. Turing was strong and driven, but at the same time so awkward and fragile. Tyldum later confessed that actor Benedict Cumberbatch was his first, and essentially only, choice to play Alan Turing, saying, "Not every actor can play a genius." Cumberbatch agreed to read the Imitation Game script while he was filming a Star Trek movie on location, playing the arch-villain Khan. He remembers thinking, an English period war drama. This should be a nice change of pace from playing a genetically engineered super warrior bad guy. Now, he already knew the name of Alan Turing as the man who broke the Enigma code. But as he read the script, he realized there was a great deal more to the character than his most famous accomplishment. The man was funny, Cumberbatch said. He was sarcastic, he was awkward. He had an interesting early life I knew nothing about, and he was an incredibly sensitive human being in a very brutal world. As soon as I finished the script, I thought, why isn't this man on British banknotes? Why isn't he on the cover of textbooks? I told my agent, okay, I'm in. And if they hadn't cast me, I would have done anything, even just serve tea on the set. Cumberbatch plunged into research into Turing's life, reading everything he could find and talking to colleagues and relatives to get a sense of what made Turing tick. As he later explained, when you're playing a historic character, you form a very strong loyalty. You want to do them justice. Keira Knightley, who plays Turing's colleague and confidant, the only woman in the group of codebreakers, relished the idea of playing a strong woman who holds her own in a field dominated by men, and said she felt privileged to be asked to join the cast. It soon turned out that the less than lavish budget wasn't much of an issue when gearing up for production. As Tilden remembered, everyone got emotionally involved in the making of this movie. All of these talented people, both in front of and behind the camera, wanted to come on board this small, independent movie. And they did it for a fraction of their usual salary. Principal photography began in England on September 15, 2013. The historic mansion at Bletchley Park was where Turing and his colleagues had worked during the war, and the filmmakers got permission to shoot there. Director Tilden shot as many interiors as he could at Bletchley, saying, "I think it does something to the performances to film on the spot where the story took place, where the actors become part of it." Cast and crew were able to see both Turing's original computer prototype, housed in a museum at Bletchley, and a real Enigma coding machine captured from the Germans, reminding them all that this was a true story. Production ran smoothly, with director Tilden saying, "There were so few problems. Everybody worked so hard. They wanted to do the right thing for the legacy of Alan Turing. It was sort of like his spirit was with us." The Imitation Game grossed over $233 million on a $14 million production budget and was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Cumberbatch, Best Supporting Actress for Knightley, Best Film Editing, Musical Score, and Production Design. And computer nerd Graham Moore took home the Oscar for Best Screenplay, his very first feature film. And now please sit back and enjoy this story of a fascinating man who was obsessed with ciphers all his life, but who was himself the biggest puzzle of all. From 2014, it's The Imitation Game.